Jake had always considered himself a patient man. He wasn't the jealous type, nor was he the kind to jump to conclusions. But lately, something about Emily's behavior felt off. It started subtly, late-night texts that she'd quickly hide, sudden bursts of laughter at messages she wouldn't share, and a growing emotional distance between them. At first, he chalked it up to stress, or maybe just a rough patch in their marriage. Every couple had them, right? Then came the lies. One Friday evening, as Jake wrapped up work from home, Emily emerged from their bedroom dressed to impress. Tight black dress, heels that made her legs look longer, and a spritz of perfume he recognized as the one she wore on special occasions. He looked up from his laptop, raising an eyebrow. "Wow, you look amazing," he said. "What's the occasion?" Emily grabbed her purse, barely sparing him a glance. "Oh, just a night out with the girls. We haven't done this in ages." Something in her voice felt off. Forced. Jake nodded, keeping his expression neutral. "Where are you guys going?" She hesitated, a fraction of a second, but enough for him to notice. Downtown. Probably that new lounge, Ember. Just cocktails and catching up." She was lying. Jake didn't know how he knew, but he did. Maybe it was the way she avoided eye contact or how her hands gripped her phone a little too tightly. He wasn't the overbearing husband who demanded to know her whereabouts every second of the day, but tonight, something gnawed at his gut. He decided not to press. "Not yet." "Have fun," he said, watching as she left, the faint sound of her heels clicking against the pavement before the door shut. Jake exhaled slowly, his mind already racing. He could let it go. Trust her. Assume she was being honest. Or he could confirm what he already suspected. He picked up his phone and called Mark, his best friend. "Hey man, you busy?" Jake asked. "Nah, just watching the game." "What's up? You feel like taking a little drive with me?" Mark was silent for a moment. Then he sighed. "Emily." Jake let out a humorless chuckle. "You know me too well." "All right," Mark said. "Pick me up in 10. They parked across the street from Ember, the lounge Emily had supposedly gone to. It was crowded, music spilling into the night, people filtering in and out. Jake and Mark sat in the car, watching. After 30 minutes, no sign of Emily. Mark sighed. "Look, man, maybe she's inside. Maybe she just didn't." Jake's phone buzzed. A message from one of his coworkers, Sarah, popped up. "Hey. Thought I saw Emily at Eric's place. Isn't that her ex? Weird." Jake felt his blood turn ice cold. Eric. The ex-boyfriend. The one Emily had sworn was ancient history. He stared at the message, his fingers gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. Mark leaned over. "What is it?" Jake showed him the text. "Well," Mark exhaled. "That changes things." Jake didn't hesitate. He started the car, pulling out onto the road. His mind was no longer clouded with doubt, only cold, hard certainty. If Emily was at her ex's house, she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. And when she came home, she was going to find out why. The drive to Eric's house felt like an eternity. Jake's mind raced, but his hands remained steady on the wheel. He wasn't the type to explode in anger, to yell, or throw things. No, his approach was always calculated, thought out. And right now, he wasn't just feeling betrayed. He was planning. Mark sat beside him, glancing over every now and then as if gauging his friend's state of mind. "You sure you want to do this?" Jake's jaw tightened. "I need to know." They pulled up a few houses down from Eric's place. The lights were on, music thumped from inside, and cars lined the driveway and the street. It wasn't just a quiet little meetup, it was a full-blown party. Jake killed the engine and leaned back, observing. "She said she was having a girls' night," he muttered. "Guess she left out the part where her ex was hosting it." Mark sighed, shaking his head. "Look, man, you can just walk away. Confront her later. But if you go in there now, there's no telling what you'll find." Jake wasn't sure what would be worse, seeing something with his own eyes or being left to imagine it. He grabbed his phone and dialed Emily. It rang twice before she answered. "Hey, babe." Her voice was overly cheerful, forced. "What's up?" Jake stared at the house. "Just checking in. Having fun with the girls? There was a pause. Yeah, we're having a great time. He felt a bitter smirk tug at his lips. Where are you guys again? At Ember, like I told you, she said, her voice a little too casual. It's been so much fun. We should totally come here together sometime. Jake's hand clenched into a fist. She was lying to his face. Sounds great, he said coolly. Send me a picture? Another pause. Then a nervous laugh. Oh, come on, babe. You don't need proof, do you? He let the silence stretch long enough to make her uncomfortable. Just a picture, Emily. Since you're at Ember and all. She hesitated, then sighed. Ugh, my phone's almost dead. I'll send one later, okay? Jake exhaled slowly, his suspicions fully confirmed. All right. Have fun, babe. He hung up before she could say anything else. Mark shook his head. She's bold, I'll give her that. Jake nodded. And she thinks I'm an idiot. He wasn't going to confront her at the party. That would be too easy. Too predictable. No, he had something better in mind. Something she would never see coming. Instead of waiting for her to stumble home in the early hours of the morning, Jake decided to set the stage. He spent the next few hours making sure everything was perfect. Emily had always taken their marriage and their home for granted. She thought he'd always be there, waiting. That he'd forgive, forget, and move on. Not this time. When Emily finally walked through the front door around 3 a.m., she was clearly drunk. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floor as she struggled to be quiet, thinking he'd be asleep. Jake was sitting in the living room, waiting. Emily nearly jumped when she saw him. Oh, you're awake, she giggled, trying to act natural. Didn't mean to wake you. Jake tilted his head. How was Ember? She hesitated for the smallest fraction of a second. It was great. You would have loved it. His lips twitched. That's funny, because I heard you were at Eric's. The color drained from her face so fast it was almost comical. Duh. Jake stood up slowly, stepping toward her. You heard me. Eric's house. Your ex. Emily's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Who told you that? Does it matter? His voice was eerily calm. You lied to me, Emily. Repeatedly. So tell me, what were you really doing there? She stammered. I was just hanging out. It was a party, Jake. It wasn't like that. He let out a humorless chuckle. Wasn't like what? Her eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, but there was none. Then she made her fatal mistake. You're overreacting, she snapped, crossing her arms. I didn't do anything wrong. And honestly, I don't have to tell you everything I do. You're acting like some controlling. Jake held up his hand, silencing her. You're right, he said. You don't have to tell me everything. And I don't have to put up with it. Her expression faltered. What do you mean? He gestured behind him. Emily's gaze followed, and that's when she saw the packed suitcases sitting by the door. Her suitcases. Her breath hitched. Jake. You made your choice, Emily, he said coldly. Now I'm making mine. Emily's eyes widened as she took in the suitcases by the door. She swayed slightly, still tipsy from her night out, but Jake could see the panic creeping into her features. You're kicking me out? She stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. I'm giving you exactly what you wanted. Freedom. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I didn't cheat, she finally blurted. I swear, Jake. Jake let out a cold laugh. You just what? Lied to my face. Spent the night at your ex's house while pretending you were somewhere else? Tell me, Emily, what part of this am I supposed to believe? Emily took a shaky step forward. I was just catching up with old friends. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd get upset. Upset? Jake scoffed. Upset is if you forgot to take the trash out. This is betrayal, Emily. She bit her lip, her eyes darting between him and the suitcases. Okay, I messed up. I should have told you. But it wasn't what you think. Jake held up a hand, stopping her. You know what the worst part is? He said, his voice quiet but firm. It's not even that you went. It's that you lied about it. You had every opportunity to tell me the truth, but instead, you made me feel like an idiot. Emily shook her head furiously.
No,
Jake cut her off with a sharp exhale. I'm done, Emily. Her face crumpled. No, you're not. You're just mad. We can fix this. Jake's jaw clenched. Fix what? The fact that I can't trust you? The fact that you spent the night lying to my face while partying with someone you used to sleep with. Emily looked desperate now. I love you, Jake. Please don't do this. Jake stared at her for a long moment. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. Tears welled in her eyes. I'll make it up to you. Just don't do this, okay? Let's talk in the morning when we're both calm. Jake shook his head. No, Emily. You made your choice the second you stepped into Eric's house. Now you get to live with it. He turned and grabbed her suitcases, rolling them toward the front door. Emily rushed forward, grabbing his arm. Jake, please. It was just one night. It didn't mean anything. Jake yanked his arm free. Then it shouldn't be a problem for you to leave, should it? Her face twisted in frustration. You're really gonna throw away our marriage over this? Over one mistake. Jake's eyes turned steely. Our marriage was over the moment you decided to lie to me. This isn't just one mistake, Emily. This is who you are. She wiped at her eyes angrily. So that's it? I'm just out on the street in the middle of the night? Jake opened the door, his face impassive. Call one of your friends. I'm sure Eric would be happy to have you. Emily gasped, as if he had slapped her. You don't mean that. Jake didn't respond. He simply stepped back, leaving her standing in the doorway with nothing but her bags and the consequences of her actions. For the first time that night, Emily seemed to realize that she had truly lost. Jake, she whispered. Please. But Jake only met her gaze one last time before closing the door in her face. Jake stood on the other side of the door, his heart pounding in his chest. He could hear Emily's muffled sobs, the frantic rustling as she fumbled with her phone. Maybe she was calling a friend. Maybe she was calling Eric. It didn't matter anymore. He leaned against the door, exhaling slowly. He thought he would feel a surge of satisfaction, a sense of victory after finally standing up for himself. But all he felt was exhaustion. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Mark *, you good? Jake stared at the message for a moment before typing back. Yeah. It's done, *. A few minutes passed before he heard Emily's footsteps retreating down the driveway. He looked through the peephole and saw her standing near the curb, frantically speaking into her phone. She wasn't coming back inside. Good. Jake ran a hand through his hair and walked into the kitchen, pouring himself a glass of water. The adrenaline was wearing off now, leaving only the sting of betrayal and the weight of everything that had just happened. Memories flooded his mind, late-night talks, vacations, the way Emily used to look at him like he was her whole world. Somewhere along the way, that had changed. Maybe she had fallen out of love with him. Maybe she had just craved the thrill of something forbidden. Either way, she had made her choice. And Jake had made his. The silence in the house was deafening. No more pretending. No more excuses. Just the truth, raw and painful. His phone buzzed again. Emily *, please don't do this. I swear I didn't cheat. Just let me come back inside so we can talk. *. Jake stared at the message. He could picture her standing outside, waiting, hoping he would cave. But he wouldn't. Not this time. He turned off his phone and set it on the counter. Then, for the first time in months, he took a deep breath and felt something close to peace.